Even though we are constantly becoming, we were still born who we were born to be. We were still born enough. We were still born everything we needed to be. We were still born the person that we needed to be to become everything that we wanted to become. So it's the process that's important, not the ending.
I'm Trevor Turner. Once lost, now living on purpose. I know what it's like to feel locked out of your own potential. This show is for the ones who are ready to take their power back and write a new story 1 hour at a time. You can do it. You can do anything, and you don't need permission. That's why I started the free hour, to give people the space to change their story, to remind them you are not your past, you are not your mistakes, you are not done, you are powerful. You can find freedom, you can find yourself, and you decide what happens next.
Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the free hour. It's your boy Trevor Turner. We're back with another video. We are back with another episode in our free hour ABCs, the ABCs of Tree. And this right here is emotional intelligence. This is where we learn how to understand ourselves better so that we can connect with each other on a deeper level. This is also where we learn how to understand our own emotions, perceive our own emotions, handle, deal with, and express our own emotions in a more healthy way, in a way that allows us to interact with, approach, face the world in the ways that we want to, in a way that allows us to handle everything that comes our way from the state that we choose, from the footing that we choose emotionally. This is also where we learn how to deal with, perceive, handle the emotions of other people. This is where we learn how to have empathy and stand in each other's shoes. This is where we learn how to see when other people express themselves, how we can nurture those emotions, validate those feelings, and not take things so personally. Basically, this is emotional intelligence, where you learn to understand yourselves so that you can connect more deeply with others. And today we're on the letter N. Today we're on the letter N, and the letter N stands for never finished. One of the things that I've been going through lately is the grief of the life that I thought I would have. This is coming from somebody who, if you would have listened to the people that I knew growing up, if you would have listened to my teachers and things like that, I was like the opposite of what most rappers say, right? Like most rappers will say, oh, my teachers never thought I'd amount to nothing. My family never thought I'd amount to nothing. I was somebody who had a lot of potential, according to other people. And I was stuck and saddled with this belief that I just kept going this way. Eventually I'd arrive. Eventually one day I would become the person that everybody else wanted me to be. And the truth was, that was never going to happen. And it wasn't because I failed. It's just because that's not really how life works. I think one of the hardest realizations that I've had recently is this. I thought life would be different for me by now. I had to come to accept that this is where my life is at. I had to come to accept that this is where my decisions landed me. I had to come to accept that there are still going to be obstacles in the way. I had to come to accept that no matter how many changes I've made up in here, or in the way that I move, the way that I work, my ethic, that it was still going to take time to get to somewhere else. And yeah, I thought that things would be different right now. When I got out of prison, I hit the ground running. I'm trying to help people. I'm doing my thing on this thing. I'm doing my thing in school. I'm doing my thing at work. And I'm trying to get into this position. I'm trying to get sky high, like my dreams were sky high. And I thought that I would be there. Not perfect, just different. See, I thought I'd have the amazing job, money, recognition, stability, answers, right? I thought I'd finally get to a place where I could just, exhale and say, okay, I made it, right? But lately I've been realizing something that scares me. What if there is no finish line? What if life isn't something that you complete? What if life is something you continually become? Because I always thought that the person that you focus on becoming, you eventually wake up and become. That's what happened with the negative lifestyle that I chose, right? The person that I wanted to become, or I thought that I wanted to become, I woke up and I ended up being that person. I woke up and before I knew it, before I realized, like I was this person. I was the person who was more comfortable in prison than on the streets. I was the person who was avoiding getting a job and doing anything illegal. I was the person who didn't care about anybody, who was heartless. I was the person who, all of these different negative things that I wanted to and strove to and acted according to and set up my habits and my beliefs to become. So when I changed, I thought that it would be the same thing, right? Until realizing that even though I was on that path, that negative path, I still hadn't fully become that. Just like I haven't fully become this. See, I'm not grieving my life, and I don't think a lot of us are grieving our lives. I think we're grieving the timelines that we thought our lives would follow. I think we're looking up at our lives, we're looking at our situations, we're looking at where we're at, and we're thinking that we should be somewhere else. We're thinking that we should be further along. We're thinking that we should be with somebody else, or we should have these many more kids, or this much better of a job, or this many more zeros in our bank account instead of just zeros in our bank account. And we're looking at these timelines and we're going like, damn, like I'm already this big age, or I'm already this age, and like I don't have what I thought I should have or what I thought I would have. And a lot of us grow up believing that life works like a ladder. The emotional fantasy of arrival shows us that we grow up believing life works like a ladder. We struggle, we sacrifice, we suffer, and then eventually we arrive. And once we arrive, everything makes sense. Everything feels worth it. Everything settles down, but that's not what happens. And that's not what happened for me. See, I escaped one difficult life. I escaped one difficult life, and I found out that even though, on this side of life, on this side of doing things, on this side of perspective, on this side of belief, on this side of habits and behavior and everything else, the grass is much definitely greener, but I still have to tend to it. I escaped the difficult life only to discover a different set of problems waiting on this other side. I was talking to one of my mentees today, and she was talking about how her mom wants her to help her like redo her grass and stuff. And she just wants her to lay some new grass over it. But then she's looking at it like, nah, moms, you got to like get out there. You got to turn over this dirt. Like you got bamboo growing up out this thing. Like you got to do some work. You can't just lay this new stuff over it and expect it to just be like that, how it needs to be right from the jump. And that's what happened with me. I discovered the different set of problems. I thought that once I got here, once I got into this new office, once I got into this new building, once I got into that new car, once I got into the new place, once I got into the new things, that I was just going to be able to say, I made it. I did it. Only to discover different responsibilities, different fears, a lot of different fears, a lot of different disappointments, different uncertainties. And for a while, I thought that meant something had gone wrong. Maybe I was behind. Maybe I made a wrong turn somewhere. Maybe I'm not progressing fast enough. But emotional intelligence asks us a different question. What if the problem isn't our progress? What if the problem is a story we were told about where progress leads? What if the problem isn't that we're taking the steps we need to take, and we think we're going in the wrong direction, and we think we've got off course somewhere? We just think that we need to go through the suffering to get to where we're at. I think it's one of the things, especially if you're a believer, especially if you grew up in church, especially if you're one of those people, we think that we have to suffer. We think that we have to go through hardship. We think that we have to go through tribulations, and we don't. Before emotional intelligence, I thought frustration meant that something wasn't working, right? Now I'm starting to realize frustration is often what happens when reality collides with expectation. When reality collides with comparison. When reality collides with the fantasy that we have in our heads. And that's one thing that I had to go through with, because when I started to change my life and I started to do different things, right, I had to realize that I had never been on this side of things before. I had never climbed this ladder before. And I know I just said it's not like a ladder, but I need the analogy, right? I had never climbed this. I had never gone this route. I had never gone this road, so that I had this fantasy. I had this expectation. I had this dream that it was going to look a certain way. And then when it didn't, I started to get frustrated. When it didn't, I started to get upset. When it didn't, I started to get scared. I started to get uncertain. And I don't think that I've been grieving failure. I don't think that a lot of us have been grieving failure. I don't think that we're actually failing. I don't think that we're actually going slower than we're supposed to. I don't think that we're actually not where we're supposed to be. I think that we've been grieving expectations. I think that we are going through this where we are living or trying to live vicariously through other people. We're trying to look at other people's timelines. We're trying to look at other people's footsteps. We're trying to look at other people's paths, and we're trying to apply those to ours, even though it's not even the same direction. It's not even the same street. It's not even the same destination. It has literally nothing to do with the other. And we're grieving because our expectations match up to someone who went a completely different direction than we did. They went to a completely different destination than we did. They went to a completely different thing than we did. And started from a completely different place than we did. And we're grieving those expectations. The life that we thought we would have. The timeline that we thought we would follow. The version of success that we thought would happen by now. And that grief is sneaky. Because it don't look like sadness. It looks like impatience. It looks like irritation. It looks like comparison, disappointment, restlessness. You think you're angry at your circumstances, but sometimes you're mourning at a future that never existed in the first place. That future that that person has wasn't promised to you. That future that that person has doesn't belong to you. That past that person has also doesn't belong to you either. The only future that belongs to you is your own. The only present that belongs to you is your own. The only past that belongs to you is your own. The only path you can follow is your own. And we keep looking at other people's and applying it to ourselves. We keep looking at the fantasy of where we think we should be going and applying it to ourselves instead of realizing that this is the path that we're on. Matching up the expectations with reality. Accepting that this is where we're at. And that doesn't mean that we can abandon hope. That doesn't mean that we can abandon dreams. That just means that we need to keep going. Because I thought things would be easier after incarceration. You know, you hear the stories, you know, people getting out, doing their thing, starting podcasts, starting nonprofits, starting businesses, hitting the ground running just like I did. Getting all sorts of funding, getting all sorts of money, getting all sorts of stuff to really help them set themselves up, to really help them set their lives up and restart in the right way, in a way that helps them get over the amount of time that they've been away. People finding wives and getting married, people having kids, people being reunited with their families in a very profound way. And I just discovered that freedom comes with just as many battles as addiction. Just as many battles as being down there, being down. Just as many battles, just different. It was like building everything that I built before and waiting for that growth. It's the same thing over here. Just because you're doing something that you know people need, just because you're doing what you know you're supposed to be doing finally, doesn't mean that you still don't have to take the time to build it. Just because you're doing everything right doesn't mean you're not going to face the obstacles, doesn't mean you're not going to face the battles, doesn't mean you're not going to feel like you're going uphill. And then obviously sometimes if you're starting over, wondering if your health is going to last you long enough to reach those dreams. Looking around at society and seeing everything more divided than ever. Seeing that everything seems like more of a scam than ever. See, I was one of those people on the outside looking in. Looking at Gen Z. I'm an older millennial, right? And I'm seeing Gen Z and I'm looking at the things that they're going through and the things that they do when it comes to like the workplace, when it comes to like dealing with society, when it comes to how they think about people. And I understand them so much now after I've gone through all of the stuff that I've gone through. This shit is a scam. Everything we're going through is literally a scam. So why not get in on it? If they are going to do the things they do and play the games that they play, why would I not play it like that, right? But I realized recently that maybe I wasn't frustrated because life is bad. I was frustrated because life wasn't matching the picture that I'd been carrying around in my head. And that's kind of hard to reconcile because one of the things that I found was, Think and Grow Rich. One of the things that I found was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. They're both telling me to firmly hold something in my mind that shows me where I am trying to get to, my trajectory for the future, what I'm trying to build to, what I'm trying to get to, what I'm trying to go after. Timelines. By this time, I'm going to have this. By this time, I'm going to do that. By this time, I'm going to achieve these roles, right? If I just put everything into my quadrants. But I think one of the things that happens is that we fall in love so much with the destination, with the expectations, that we forget about the process. We forget about the process. We call this arrival fallacy. The term was popularized by psychologist and author Tal Ben-Shahar, and the idea is simple. We convince ourselves that happiness, fulfillment, or peace exists on the other side of some future achievement. When I get the degree, when I lose the weight, when I get the job, when I make the money, when I get the recognition, when the free hour starts taking off, when I start my nonprofit, when I get those promotions, when I get my degree, when I become Dr. Turner, when I. And that's something that I had found or thought that I had shaken from myself a long time ago. I thought that I had learned to re-fall in love with the process because when I was out there doing my thing, I was in love with that process. I gave everything to that process. And I thought that I had done the same for this. I thought that I knew my destination, but I was going to fall in love with every step that it took to get there. And then when the expectations weren't lining up, I fell out of love with that process and found myself mourning it and grieving it. The fact that those expectations weren't lining up with what the reality was, instead of staying in love with the process. Because research consistently shows that after major accomplishments, people often return to roughly the same baseline level of satisfaction. Not because achievement doesn't matter, but because humans adapt. The finish line moves. The mountain reveals another mountain. And if your emotional well-being depends upon finally arriving, you spend your life chasing a horizon that's never going to come. And for me, I fell into that trap because it's like I'm chasing my AA degree. When I got my AA degree, now I'm chasing my bachelor's degree. As soon as I get that, I was going to find myself chasing the next degree. I was already lining it up. I was already like, okay, I'm one semester away. I'm getting all these A's. I'm not celebrating my successes. I'm not proud of myself. It's just another step toward that horizon that I know now after looking back into it, realizing that I fell out of love with the process and fell in love with this so-called destination that I thought I was going to get to. It wasn't going to be enough. I was going to get that degree and I was going to want more. It was going to be the job next. It was going to be the business next. It was going to be this next. It was going to be building the network next. It was going to be building all of these different things that were going to replace those things, that moving the goalpost on myself. Instead of realizing like everything that I've done, everything that I've come through, everything that I've accomplished, and it goes the same for you. You spend your life chasing the horizon. And that realization can sound depressing at first until you look at it a little bit differently. The goal was never to arrive. The goal was always to become. See, life isn't asking you when will you finally be finished. Life is asking you, who are you becoming while you're still unfinished? Because that's where all of us live. We all live in the unfinished. We all live in the uncertainty. We all live in the middle. We all live in the now. We don't live on the destination on the horizon. We live right now. The middle isn't a temporary place. The middle is life. Emotionally mature people eventually learn that powerful lesson. The mountain wasn't hiding the view. The mountain was the view. So stop pretending you're not disappointed. Acknowledge it. There are things you thought would happen by now. And it's okay to grieve that. Grief acknowledged becomes wisdom. Grief denied becomes bitterness. Mourn your timeline. Realize, okay, I have these expectations. I thought I was going to be here. I thought my life was going to look like this. I thought that I was going to have those things. Allow yourself to grieve those things. Allow yourself to be sad for not having what you thought you were going to have. So that way you can learn from from that process. You can learn from what you don't have. You can learn from where you went instead of just being bitter and carrying on to not having it. Turn those losses into learning experience. Turn those setbacks into wisdom. And then separate yourself from that expectation. Ask yourself, am I actually stuck? Or am I progressing slower than I imagined? Those are not even close to the same thing. One requires change, the other one requires perspective. So ask yourself where you're at. Measure meaning and not milestones. Some of the most meaningful parts of your life may never produce money, fame, recognition, applause, and that doesn't make them any less valuable. It makes them real. One of the things I had to realize was this, is that a lot of my conversations, a lot of the most meaningful conversations that I have now are with one person in the office when I'm working, with one of my clients, one at a time. So like when I come back and I do these videos and I come back and I look at how many people are watching these videos or how many people like or how many people comment, and I'm realizing that like the most meaningful conversations I'm having are with one person, one at a time, one-on-one. So that means the same thing for me on this. Like if one person is watching this, if one person is getting it, if one person is being helped, if one person is getting closer to emotional intelligence, if one person is getting closer to be able to pursue their dreams, that's enough for me. Because the most meaningful stuff is not going to bring you everything that you necessarily think is going to bring you. And that doesn't erase the meaning of it. That doesn't erase, like I shouldn't erase the passion of what I'm doing just because it's only going to hit a certain amount of people, right? And that's the same thing I do at work. Like I don't tone myself down just because it's only one client that's coming in at a time, one mentee that's coming in at a time. I didn't tone myself down when I went from facilitating the class with 25, 30 people to now having conversations with mentees, to now having a caseload of 25, 30 people. See, every class had that many people in it. Now my whole caseload is that amount of people. So I get to talk to that amount of people in a week, whereas I used to have that many people every couple of hours, right? But that doesn't make it any less impactful. That doesn't make it any less important. Matter of fact, I go harder because I get the opportunity to talk to that one person and get really deep with them. It makes it real. And that's what I've been learning lately. And that's what I want to help you all learn lately. See, like we still want the better job. I still want the better job. I still want the financial freedom. I still want the growth. I still want the recognition. I still want to create something that gets bigger and touches people like all across the world. Pause. I still want like the fruits of my labor, the fruits of my change, the fruits of my effort. And none of those desires are wrong. But I'm beginning to understand something. If I spend my entire life waiting to feel complete, I'll miss the life that's happening while I'm becoming. And that's something that I thought I had wrapped my head around. That's a concept that I thought that I had understood fully. And then when I found myself like, oh shit, like damn, like I really am not in love with the process no more. And that's not something I want to continue doing. Nobody arrives. Nobody finishes. Maybe that's the truth of it. Nobody finally becomes the finished version of themselves. We just keep growing. We keep learning. We keep adjusting. We keep becoming. And maybe that's exactly how it's supposed to be. We're always in the process. We're always in the now. We're always in the middle. We're always on that road. So it's like when you are on that road, you need to be proud of who you are on that road. The moment I stopped asking when life would finally begin was the moment I realized it already had. You know, when I got out of prison, I was feeling like, when is all of this going to start? Like, I'm feeling like everything is a stepping stone to something else. Everything is a stepping stone to something bigger or something more important. Everything is like leading up to or building up to or going to result in or going to end in. And I'm realizing like, no, literally everything I've touched, everything I've done, everything I've been a part of is super important. Super important. And I need to realize that. I need to remember that. I need to remember that when I'm working this job, that I can't be looking to the future and thinking about, okay, what's coming next? What bigger and better is coming after? I can't be looking at the school that I'm at now and being like, okay, well, what's coming next? What bigger and better is coming after? I need to celebrate all my wins. I need to realize that I am the person who does good work and gets A's and is good with my professors, has great relationships with people. I need to realize that, like, that's who I am now, and that's who I need to be now. If I'm so constantly stuck and focused on what's going to happen tomorrow, then everybody who I interact with today is going to get the least of me. My clients will get the least of me because I'm focusing on the next job. I'm focusing on the pay raise. I'm focusing on the promotion. I'm focusing on what I'm going to do when I finally make it. My teachers and professors will get the same thing. My family members will get the same thing. My friends will get the same thing, instead of realizing that this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. This is the road I'm on. And who are you going to meet on that road when you see me? Are you going to meet the Kung Fu master? Or are you going to meet the dude that's complaining? Are you going to meet the person that can teach you something? Or are you going to meet the dude that's always bitching and it's just going to make you feel like, every time this motherfucker comes, like he just got nothing but some bullshit to say. Like, who is it you're going to meet? Who is it that I'm going to meet when I meet you on the road? When I meet you at what you're becoming? That's something I want you to think about. See, M was for meaning. It was learning how to keep going when we felt lost. And N is never finished. It's learning that maybe feeling unfinished isn't a problem to solve. It's the price of continuing to grow. If you're going to continue to grow, if you're going to continue to become, then you have to go through periods of feeling like you're unfinished. You have to go through periods of feeling like you're incomplete. You have to go through periods of growing pains, of transition, to get to the place where you finally want to be. All right? And that's it. It's been your boy Tree, Trevor Turner. That was Emotional Intelligence. And this has been Luna. And we'll holler at you next time. Deuces.